Chapter 4. The Keeper of the Keys. Boom! They knocked again. Dudley jerked awake. "Where's the cannon?" he said stupidly. There was a crash behind them and Uncle Vernon seemed getting into the room. He was holding a rifle in his hands. Now they knew what had been in the long, thin package he had brought with them. "Who's there?" he shouted. "I warn you, I'm armed." There was a pause. Then, smash! The door was hit with such force that it swung clean off his fingers and with a deafening crash landed flat on the floor. A giant of a man was standing in the doorway. His face was almost completely hidden by a long, shaggy mane of hair and wild, tangled beard, but you could make out his eyes, glaring like black beetles under all the hair. The giant squeezed his way into the hut, stooping so that his head just brushed the ceiling. Hugh bent down, picked up the door and fitted it easily back into the frame. The noise of the storm outside dropped a little. So this is this big man that they saw. He turned to look at them all. Couldn't make us a cup of tea, could ya? It's not been an easy journey. He strode over to the sofa where Dudley was sat frozen with fear. "Budge up, you great lump," said the stranger. Dudley squeaked and ran to hide behind his mother, who was crouching, terrified, behind Uncle Vernon. "Ah, that's Harry," said the giant. Harry looked up into the fierce, wild, shadowy face and saw that the beetle eyes were clinked in a smile. "Last time I saw you, you was only a baby," said the giant. "You look a lot like your dad, but I've got your mama's." Uncle Vernon made a funny rasping noise. "I demand that you leave at once, sir," he said. "You're breaking and entering." "Shut up, Dursley, you great prune," said the giant. He reached over the back of the sofa, jerked the gun out of Uncle Vernon's hands, bent it into the knot as easily as it had been made of rubber, and threw it into a corner of the room. Uncle Vernon made another funny noise, like a mouse being trodden on. "Anyway, Harry," said the giant, turning his back on the Dursleys, "a very happy birthday to ya! Got some out for ya here. I might have said it at some point, but it will taste all right." From an inside pocket of his black overcoat, he pulled a slightly squashed box. Harry opened it with trembling fingers. Inside was a large sticky chocolate cake with "Happy Birthday, Harry" written on it in green icing. Harry looked up at the giant. He meant to thank you, but the words got lost on the way to his mouth, and what he said instead was, "Who are you?" The giant chuckled. "True, I haven't introduced myself. Well, Rubius Hagrid, the keeper of the keys and the grounds at Hogwarts." He held out an enormous hand and shook Harry's whole arm. "What about that tea then, eh?" he said, rubbing his hands together. "I'd not say tea to Matt Stronger if you got it, mind." His eyes fell off the empty grate with the shriveled crisp packets in it, and he snorted. He bent down over the fireplace. They couldn't see what he was doing, but when he drew back a second later, there was a roaring fire there. It filled the whole damp hut with flickering light, and Harry felt the warmth wasn't over him, as though he'd suck into a hot bath. This is the fireplace. Hagrid, Harry, the fireplace. The giant sat back down on the sofa, which sagged under his weight, and began talking all sorts of things out of the pockets of his coat. A copper kettle, a squashy package of sausages, a poker, a teapot, several chipped mugs, and a bottle of some amber liquid, which he took a swig from before starting to make tea. Soon the hut was full of the sound and smell of sizzling sausage. Nobody said a thing while the giant was walking, but as he slid the first 6 fat, juicy, slightly burned sausages from the poker, Dudley fighted a little. Uncle Vernon said sharply, don't touch anything he gives you, Dudley. The giant chuckled darkly. Yeah, great pudding of a son, don't need flattery anymore, Dursley, don't worry. He passed the sausages to Harry, who was so hungry he had never tasted anything so wonderful, but he first couldn't take his eyes off the giant. Finally, as nobody seemed about to explain anything, he said, I'm sorry, but I still don't really know who you are. The giant took a gulp of tea and wiped his mouth with the back of his hand. Call me Hagrid, he said. Everyone does, and like I told you, I'm the keeper of the kids at Hogwarts. Yeah, I know about your Hogwarts, of course. No, said Harry. Harry looked shocked. Sorry, said Harry quickly. Sorry? Barked Hagrid, turning to stare at the Dursleys, who shrank back into the shadows. It's them that should be sorry. I knew you were getting yelled at us, but I never thought you would even know about Hogwarts. They're crying out loud. Yeah, I never wondered where your parents get it all. Oh, what? Asked Harry. Oh, what? Hagrid thundered. Oh, no, wait just 1 second. He had leapt to his feet. In his anger, he seemed to feel the whole hut. The Dursleys were covering against the wall. Do you mean tell me? He growled at the Dursleys. This boy, who knows nothing about anything. Harry thought this was going a bit far. He had been to school after all, and his marks weren't bad. I know some things, he said. I can't, do maths and stuff. But Harry simply waved his hand and said, about our world, I mean, your world, my world, your parents' world. What world? Harry looked as if he had about to explode. Dursley! He boomed. Uncle Vernon, who had gone very pale, whispered something that sounded like Nibble Wimble. Harry stared wildly at Harry. But you must know about your mom and dad, he said. I mean, they were famous. You're famous. What? My mom and dad weren't famous, were they? Yeah, I don't know. Hagrid ran his fingers through his hair, fixing Harry with a bewildered stare. You don't know that you are, huh? He asked finally. Uncle Vernon suddenly sounded his voice. Stop, he commanded. Stop right there, sir. I forbid you to tell the boy anything. A braver man than Vernon Dursley would have quailed under the furious look Hagrid now gave him. When Hagrid spoke, his every syllable trembled with rage. You never told him what was in the letter Dumbledore left for him. How was that? I saw Dumbledore leave it, Dursley, and you've kept it from him all these years. Kept what from me? Said Harry eagerly. Stop! I forbid you! Yelled Uncle Vernon in panic. Aunt Petunia gave a gasp of horror. Go boil your hats, both of ya, said Hagrid. Harry, you're wizard. There was silence inside the hall. Only the sea and the whistling could be heard. I'm a what? Gasped Harry. A wizard, of course, said Hagrid, sitting back down on the sofa, which groaned and sank even lower. And a thumping good I'd say you've been trained up a little bit. With a mom and dad like yours, what else should they be? As I recall, about time, yeah, we yell at. Harry stretched out his hand and last to take the yellowish envelope, addressed in emerald green to Mr. Harry Potter. The floor, hot on the rock, the sea. He pulled out of the letter and read. Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Headmaster Albus Dumbledore. Order of Merlin, First Class. Grand Swords. Warlock. Supreme Mugwump. International Confed of Wizards. Dear Mr. Potter, we're pleased to inform you that you have a place at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Please find and enclose the list of all necessary books and equipment. Term begins on 1st September. We await you all by no later than 31st July. Yours sincerely, Minerva McGonagall, Deputy Headmistress. Questions exploded inside Harry's head like fireworks, and he couldn't decide which to ask first. After a few minutes, he stumbled. What does it mean? They await my all. Galloping Gorgons, that reminds me, said Hagrid, clapping a hand to his forehead with enough force to knock over a cart horse, and from yet another pocket inside he saw a cart. He pulled it out, a real, live, rather ruffled-looking owl, a long quill and a roll of parchment. With his tongue between his teeth, he scribbled a note which Harry could read upside down. Dear Mr. Dumbledore, give Harry this letter. Taking him to buy his things tomorrow. Weather's horrible. Hope you're well, Hagrid. Hagrid rolled up the note, gave it to the owl, which clamped in its brake, went to the door and threw the owl out into the storm. When he came back and sat down as though he was normal as talking on the telephone.